So, Until Dawn is the greatest horror game of all time. I truly believe that. It combines so many different genres of horror, and just adding the element of choose your own adventure makes it flawless. I literally think that it is a flawless game. If you don't know what Until Dawn is, which why are you watching this video if you don't know what Until Dawn is? But Until Dawn is a game that came out in 2015 where you have a couple of characters and you have to make all of these decisions throughout the night and try to keep them alive until dawn. In the game, there are so many different choices you can make. Like, you can impact their relationships just by the dialogue you choose to use. You obviously can impact which characters live. You can also change what characters will think of other characters depending on whether they live or not, or if they help them or not. Like, there are so many different things to go over in this game. Like, the choices are unlimited. While I do believe Until Dawn is a flawless game, there are a couple of things in the game that I do wish could happen, which would be really hard because the game is already so full. I'm not even sure if these choices would end up making it better because it might be too much because this game has everything going for it. But I think anyone who's ever played the game has thought, oh, what if this was an option? What if you could do this? And thought to themselves of what choices they would want to make in the game that they don't offer. Because while it is a game based on choice, there is a one-way story that you have to go through while playing it where you don't get a decision. Like, you don't get to leave the mountain, you don't get to stop, spoiler, you don't get to stop Josh from becoming the psycho. You always end up at the cabin, you always end up blowing up the lodge. I think they did a good job of keeping a consistent story while also letting you get to impact it by making different decisions. But today I'm going to be talking about 5 decisions that I wish were in the game that they don't have. These are just random things that I've thought while playing the game. I've played the game a couple times now. I've studied the game for a really long time. I know pretty much every decision that you can make in the game. The only things I don't know are probably some of the dialogue conversations. And even now, after studying the game for years, I'll play it and I'll see something that I didn't even know was an option, which is just to say how much is in this game. I've already spoiled a little bit, but I'm just gonna say it anyway. If you have not played this game, Until Dawn, it is the best game of all time. I highly recommend you go play it before listening to what I'm going to say because I'm going to be spoiling even more than I already have. Now, my first one is a pretty widely wanted thing in the game because I've heard a lot of people talk about this because it's really sad. But I do wish that Josh had a better ending than either dying or turning into a Wendigo. If you don't know, Josh cannot live past the night unless he turns into a Wendigo. He either has to die a horrible death or have that fate. Maybe even if there's a way after he's revealed as the psycho, because I do think that he has to be the psycho. I don't think that should be an option to change. But just where he can kind of go back on some of the things he did more, because he kind of just loses it after he is revealed and you can't really redeem that at all. In a way, they redeem his character by having them help him and he gives them the key to the cable car, but still, it's just he really loses it. And I wish that there was a better outcome for this character because personally, I really like Josh. I know that there are other people who do. I know there's people who hate Josh, but I really like him and I wish that there was a way to have him have a happy ending, especially since he's one of the characters that you are supposed to keep alive. All of the characters that you can keep alive have an introduction in the beginning of the game, and he has one of them, which is why it's so confusing when he ends up being the psycho, because you're like, wait, wasn't I supposed to keep him alive? I just wish there was a better outcome for him so that I could feel like I won the game more, because it just feels really defeating when he turns into the Wendigo, which is his best ending. So as cool as that is, I do wish that he could be saved, and he cannot. So the second thing I wish was an option in the game, which is kind of funny because I just said I didn't want this with Josh, but I wish that other characters could turn into Wendigos if you make the wrong decision. This game has the element that if you resort to cannibalism on the mountain, then you will become a Wendigo because of the Wendigo spirit or whatever.
There is a curse that dwells in these mountains. Should any man or woman resort to cannibalism in these woods, the spirit of the Wendigo shall be unleashed.
Which I love the Wendigo idea. I didn't know what a Wendigo was before I watched this game, and now I love the take that they went on it. I didn't even realize that it was a real thing. I thought the game made it up. So I do want all of the characters to have a good ending, but I think it'd be fun if some of the other characters could also turn into Wendigos, just because that would really throw off the game. Some characters that I think that they could have done that with are Jessica specifically, because Jessica gets taken in the beginning of the game and she's literally laying down in the mines for like 8 chapters. And so if she survives and maybe there was some decision that you made wrong in the beginning, maybe she ends up eating something down there and then she turns into a Wendigo. I think that would be a really interesting thing that could happen, because you don't play as Jessica throughout the entire game. You only play as Jessica in the beginning and maybe at the end if Matt is not alive. So Jessica is like not a real character that you play as. She's kind of a fake character that you just have to keep alive with the other characters. So I think her turning into a Wendigo based on something that either Mike does or even Matt does would be really interesting. I think another character that could turn into a Wendigo would be Emily, because Emily does get bit by the Wendigo and they think that she might turn because of that, which I love that that doesn't turn her. I think that's a really unique thing. I think maybe if Emily was to like get stuck, if she's being chased by the Wendigo and then she can't escape, then she turns into a Wendigo. I just feel like turning the characters into Wendigos would have been an element that they didn't explore as much. I think what really made me think of this idea was playing the Quarry. If you don't know what the Quarry is, I'm about to spoil this game, so if you don't want to know the spoilers to the Quarry, if you haven't played it, please skip past this. But in the Quarry, you can turn almost every character you have into a werewolf, so that plays a really big element into that game, and it's really fun to see like how different the game is or where your characters end up depending if they turned into a werewolf or not. And I think that was kind of the idea that they didn't do in Until Dawn, so they did it in the Quarry. So maybe it works better in the Quarry because Until Dawn already has enough. I just think if they stepped into that a little bit with the Wendigo, I think that would have been really interesting. I guess they don't really need that element, just maybe if they like kind of did it, which would be fun. Now, there's a part in Until Dawn where Mike is going through the sanatorium. These sanatorium scenes fill up a lot of the runtime. During the first sanatorium visit, there's a moment where Mike can try to look at this clue, this creepy hand thing. They try to get you to click it because you can see like there's a note on it. And if you do, Mike's fingers will get stuck in a bear trap, and you will have the option to either cut off his fingers or try to pry it open. Now this part is like really intense if you're in it, but you find out later that it literally does nothing. Like it doesn't matter if you pry it open because you can still escape without the machete, and it doesn't matter if you cut off Mike's fingers because it doesn't affect anything. So my thing that I would want them to add to the game is if you choose to cut off Mike's fingers, maybe there's something later on in the game that he can't do because he doesn't have his fingers. Because if you don't have the machete, you're not able to fight off the Wendigo in a certain way. But like that doesn't really affect much, and I understand that they need to keep Mike alive because he has to make it to that final scene. So maybe there's something that he could not do because he doesn't have his fingers that ends up making another character die instead of himself, because Mike can't die because he's like plot armor. I feel like there's just no suspense there once you know, because like it doesn't matter what decision you make, and it just seems a little unnecessary because it doesn't affect anything. So my next thing that I wish was in the game, which is a little bit dark, I'm gonna preface this by saying this is a little bit dark. So in the finale of the game, there's like 2 different finales that they have because some of the characters are stuck in the mines and some of the characters are back at the lodge. So they have this mini finale for Jessica and Matt, who can never make it back to the lodge no matter what. Which Matt is another character that could turn into a Wendigo, what I was saying earlier. That would be really interesting because he's always stuck in the mines. Because the big finale is back at the lodge, and it's just like this really scary, intense scene. I've played it a couple times and it is just terrifying. It is obviously the biggest, like most intense scene of the entire game. And so the one before it, while it is very scary, kind of like just gets, it's really quick, and it's not like there's not really many choices. Any wrong move you make is going to kill both of your characters, but the choices are a little bit obvious to where you know like, oh, you probably shouldn't abandon Jessica. I do love the choice of where you have to run or hide, and you have to realize that Jessica can't run or else she'll die. So I love that. After you hide with Jessica once, you have the option to either abandon Jessica or hide together with her and try to keep you both safe. Now, this option seems really obvious to me. Like, abandon Jessica is just so obviously wrong, and I feel like this final decision to keep both of these characters alive should be more like you don't know what to do exactly. So I think what decision would have been more interesting is if they were hiding, and because Jessica is so hurt she like couldn't be quiet, or you like thought she was gonna fall over and give it away, if Matt was faced with the option in the moment of hiding to either like get rid of her or be able to keep her quiet, and you have to like deal with that. I don't know what the game mechanics for that would have been, like having to keep her quiet while doing the don't move. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I feel like there should have been a decision in this final scene that is more hard to decipher what the right thing is, whether or not you made the correct decisions along the way and whether or not you need to sacrifice Jessica to save Matt or not. One example I can think of, again, this is talking about another game, but I'll try not to spoil anything from it, but there's another game by the same company called The Devil in Me, and in The Devil in Me, there's a moment where one of the characters is hiding and she has an animal with her, and you have to decide whether to kill that animal or not. And I remember playing that and being faced with that decision and being like, I have no idea what to do. I think that's what made me think of this, because I feel like that moment was more intense than the one in Until Dawn where you're deciding to save Jessica or not in that moment. This is a pretty specific one, and I'm only talking about this one instance, but I kind of like when they put you in a situation where you have to question whether or not to save your character or not. But I just think having another situation with Matt in that final scene where he has to make a difficult decision would have been a good add to the game. Now, my final thing in this game that I wish was an option that isn't, that is so unfortunate and such a missed opportunity, but relationships in this game are really, really important, because relationships are measured throughout the game. What dialogue you pick will affect that, and also they can literally kill you if you don't keep Ashley and Chris's relationship in check. Ashley will kill Chris. If you don't keep Matt and Emily in check, you'll have to listen to 100 million comments from Emily about it. That being said, relationships are a big part of this game, and I wish that there was a way to get Mike and Sam together at the end of this game, because they all have their little like relationships that they have, and Mike and Sam are so obviously the two leads of this game. They end up growing so much because they're both trying to lead the group, they're both trying to keep everyone safe, and they have so many scenes together, and it's so unfortunate that they cannot get together by the end of this game, because Jessica is literally taken or dies. I think there was supposed to be a little bit of a thing between Sam and Josh, but he's literally crazy, so like how am I supposed to like support that? But anyway, it would have just been great if they could have gotten together at the end of this game, because they just literally, they have so much chemistry and they go through so much together. The relationships in this game also just switch up so much, with like Emily being with Mike, and then he's with Jessica, and then Emily goes and finds Mike again, but now Emily's with Matt. It's like they just switch up so much. And you know, I definitely see Mike with Sam the most, which Mike is a really bad dude in the beginning of the game, but Mike at the end of the game is a great guy. So I wish that was in the game somehow. I wish you could get that to happen, but there's no way to possibly do that. I guess they do have like other things going on where they're like being attacked by monsters to think about that, but I definitely believe that Sam and Mike get together after this game, because it's really hard to not see that with all the things they go through. Anyway, that's all my things that I wish were in Until Dawn. Even with that, like, it's literally a flawless game. Anything you could find something that you would want to change or add or whatever. And I don't even know if all these adds would make the game better, but it's just fun to think about, because there are just so many options that they could have gone with, that they did go with. I am literally still learning things, and I've played the game many times, so. But anyway, if you have any options that you wish were in Until Dawn that aren't an option, please let me know, because this game is so much fun to see other theories about, and I love thinking through it myself. So, I mean, obviously. Okay, that's it for today. Bye!